What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. I am the Martian, joined by my co-host, as always, Ozzy. And this week, we're going to be talking about the UFC Fight Night card going down from the Apex, Alexa Grasso versus Vivianne Araujo, going down this Saturday, the 15th of October, 2022. Coming off of a 1 week break with no UFC. Ozzy, how we doing this week, my man?
Real wet up here in the great state of New York. Good off week last week. My Giants held it down in London, so that made me happy. But yeah, we got this little speed bump here of a card before the big card next week. Hopefully that goes off without a hitch. But yeah, did a little bit of, was doing my normal kind of like prep for this card, and I was just not feeling it overall. And yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the matchmaking that's been, going down in the last like few days. That December card's looking good, that Orlando card's looking good. So some good fight cards coming up. But this one is, I would describe as lackluster for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Some good points there. Obviously, next week, possibly one of the best UFC cards ever. And, we're kind of seeing some weak cards in the beginning of the month. And I think the card after that, the 29th, is also weak. So it's just all the good fights are stacked on that one card in Abu Dhabi, and the rest of the fights in October are pretty lackluster. So we're still grinding through those, but I completely agree. I mean, this fight, top to bottom, I mean, I don't see a single fight that I'm actually like really looking forward to seeing. I think it'll be cool to see Tyra back in action. Cub Swanson's a legend. Always nice to see him fight. And the women's main event is actually a decent women's fight, 4 or 5 rounder, but still, man, pretty hard to get really excited about these fights. And then a quick recap of the last event. I profited just about zero point 0.6 units. Some favorites came through. Davis and Latifi were good. Got a little let down on Castaneda. Jotko, obviously a huge loss. We were way off there, but really the Olenek and Latifi fight saved me. Playing the overs in that fight, the Sadiq Youssef sub at 12-1, which we shouted out on the podcast. So, man, I'm just slaying the props this year, man. I think I'm actually down on money lines for the year, but the props are keeping me in the profits. So, be aware if you're tailing my money line bets that the props are really where it's at. How'd you do?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have any prop action. The Castaneda fight. As soon as that one happened, I'm like, man, this is some. I mean, I think the fight got capped good. I had a little under 2 units on him, and just disappointing that he was chasing that finish, and this guy was just literally eating every shot. And I felt like it was like he was right at the brink of just being completely unconscious. But credit to Santos. He took literally everything on the chin and was able to survive. And it was that classic, berserker Brazilian from there. Like he stayed, heavy pressure. He didn't take a step back, and was just creating dangerous collisions, pretty often. And funny coincidence, I have a teammate, same Mexican kid, just like Castaneda, fighting like literally Daniel Santos's clone in like a week. So I'm looking to get some personal revenge on this guy. So we'll see if I'm in the corner. I might, might fly down to Miami. We'll see. We're talking about that this week.
Is
But
it
yeah,
Combate?
it might be Combate. So yeah, so finished a little under is a little over 4.5 units down. That was a big loss, and then obviously the Jocko one, similar to you. The Barcelos line, I had that one at 2-1, and obviously that was, he probably should have been like -400, easily. Should have probably had a little bit more on that, but it wasn't a card I had, tons of action on. I did think Mackenzie Dern, just to touch on that, I think she definitely deserved the 10-8 round. In that fifth round, it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me overall. But they were super stingy with the 10-8s. Like this is some, I don't really understand how they're judging these fights. They're not going to give out any 10-8s for when one person literally does nothing and the other person does everything. And just because the girl gets on top for like 22 seconds and fucking throwing punches that don't even land, like how does that mitigate what just took place in the early? So it doesn't make sense to me. The judging is sketchy. The judges are sketchy. So I'm trying to pull back the reins a little bit just because I feel like some of these I'm not understanding how some of these things are judged. So you got to be a little lighter on these live bets, I think, as well. On top of that, we got this Malkoun versus fucking what's his name, Maximov fight. You don't know how they're gonna judge that shit. It's just a lot of weird stuff going on in the UFC. Shitty fights all over the place. I don't know what's going on. So, well, let's see what we could make out of them. Make a chicken salad out of chicken shit. So let's get it.
Yeah, I mean, I tweet about that often. The judging and the officiating are very, very random, especially with stopping fights too. Like Mike Davis fight could have got stopped. I mean, he was fucking smashing Slava's head into the mat, and I lost on the ITD there. Also, another sad note. Last thing we'll mention: Angela Lee. Speaking of judging fights, we got let down there
Shit
big
don't make
time.
no sense either. That shit don't make no sense.
Yeah,
Bro, one of the judges gave Slava round 2 when he was in bottom out for like the last 2 minutes. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like you could say like or and then you give fights like to Brendan Allen when they fight in Malkoun when like you're not giving control. It doesn't none of the stuff makes sense. Like they're judging control time and like fucking crotch sniffing, positions like, holding on the legs. But if you're in mount on the guy, like they don't give you credit. Or if you're on back mount like Mackenzie Dern, it doesn't make sense. Like if you're not going to give credit to the most dangerous positions of mount and back mount, even if you're not fucking crushing them, but you're going to give credit if a guy's got holding the guy in the back clinch. It doesn't make sense. Like it makes zero sense. So that's my rant. It's really, if you could tell from my voice, it's really upsetting me. It doesn't make any sense to me. So
yeah. I think judges they undervalue mount and the back take. Like they're
So
like
how does this, if I'm fucking just holding onto your legs and you're against the fence, you're getting up, how are you gonna give that same credit to if you're fucking flat on your back or I've got back mount on you? It doesn't make sense. Literally, like what, like it, there's a reason that they should go to jiu-jitsu tournaments. That's the thing. Like it takes so much energy. I've been training a lot of jujitsu lately. Very good. It's been going very well. And it takes so much effort to literally hold someone down in a dominant position. Like I've been trying to grapple more ADCC rules, and it's fucking impossible, dude, sometimes to hold some of these guys down. So shit's crazy. So let's get into this card though. I'm
yeah,
not
we
trying
had
to be
to we
this.
had to go a little off topic with this fight card being weak. We had to talk about some bigger issues in the UFC. But all right, first fight, welterweight division, Mike Jackson, Pete Rodriguez. The line here, Rodriguez minus 700,
My
Jackson
lord.
plus 500. Obviously not much to say about this fight. I think though, I'm eyeing a bet. Honestly, I'm thinking about betting the fight to start round 2 at plus 165. I mean, that just is like a that's like a 37% chance I think this fight starts round 2. These guys are low-level fighters. Sure, Pete Rodriguez might come out there and hit Jackson with some shots, and he might just go away quickly, but rewatching the Jackson, Barry fight, like, I think Jackson is not completely a quitter. Like, I don't think he's gonna just cover up and get finished quickly here. I think he is gonna, try to fight and try to make it as long as he can in the fight. And Pete Rodriguez has beaten complete bums before he got to the UFC. So Mike Jackson is not a real fighter, but he honestly might still be a step up in competition from some of the guys Rodriguez has faced. So I'm just fading that round 1 finish here. I mean, they have round 1 KO at like 60% almost for Pete Rodriguez here, which I just think is wrong. So any thoughts here at all, Ozzy?
Insane fight. Obviously, listeners cashed in on that Mike Davis, like Mike Jackson, like plus 800 or whatever it was last time. Crazy fight. I mean, he looked bad in that fight, though, in my opinion. He just like was not reacting well to strikes. He was looking kind of awkward. Pete Rodriguez, I think, is gonna find this guy's chin. He's just like just some of the ways that Dean Barry sucks, but the way Dean Barry was trying to find angles, like not well, but he's trying to move around them, and Mike Jackson's like he's like was just slow to keep up with him. Sometimes like his body, it's just weird when someone's moving where like their eyes are moving one way, but then their body is like second to react. And I feel he's just gonna get hit with a shot that he literally doesn't see coming. But it's a crazy fight, man. Like whatever starts round 2, sure. I'm not betting on this fight. Card starts after this second fight of the night for me. But in this economy, you're paying these guys 5 figures. It's fucking crazy. So yeah, let's move on.
All right, next fight is actually an exciting one. Flyweight division, promising prospect Taira taking on CJ Vergara. The line for this one, Taira minus 255, Vergara plus 215. Probably the best fight on the card from my perspective. What are you thinking here?
It's a good fight here. Two guys I think impressed in their last fight, or just they bring the fight. Tyra is very talented. I feel mixes up his the activity and his his striking with his grappling pretty well. Came from that Japanese scene, but I mean he impressed me with his grappling, even with Candelario like having some success against him with some wrestling and some stuff like that. I like the transitions that he was going for, and it's just always like a style and an intent and a end game of kind of like getting to those best positions that Tyra was using that I liked. Vergara did well against Rodriguez and just kind of like overwhelming him and putting it was that kind of like prospect L. It wasn't his first loss, but that prospect L with being in his face, being high paced, and kind of like just not respecting some certain transitions. That's like a point in some of these especially in the grappling when if you don't respect someone's certain aspects of someone's grappling, sometimes some grappling techniques become less effective or ineffective, to that point. But I don't think that's going to happen here just because Tyra, I feel he's a little bit quicker on the feet and more comfortable than Rodriguez was at that point. He's okay with exchanging a bit. He uses his kicks pretty well, in my opinion, and I think that his grappling and getting to the back position and being just aggressive, in that is going to be able to cut through CJ when CJ gets either over aggressive on the feet, which he tends to do, or on the ground if he looks to just like try to get up or look to scoot around. I think Tyra's good at flanking, getting to good angles around, and eventually securing good position. So I got a bet on Tyra at minus 220. I think it's pretty solid there. Not a huge bet, but I do think he's going to win this fight, and I don't think the submission 350 is that bad of a price either.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I mean, I was a little bit skeptical of Tyra before his last fight, but he really impressed me. The way he was able to maintain those back takes in that fight was something I've never seen in MMA. Like he was going flat on back. It looked like he completely lost the position, and then he would just readjust and then get right back to the back take. I mean, his flexibility and his ability to maintain that back control is incredible. And the thing is, he was like minus 300 in that fight. And Candelario had a lot of footage of him defending back takes and doing well in grappling. And he fought that guy in the contender series who was a really good grappler and jiu-jitsu fighter. And now Vergara, I think, has a lot worse grappling tape than Candelario does, but he's a shorter dog than Candelario was. So I think the line is a little confusing, a little off. I did bet Tyra as well, 230. You got a little better price there. But I think he probably should be closer to minus 300 in this spot. I think he's going to get the fight in the grappling. He's going to be getting his back takes. Vergara's grappling just doesn't look very good to me. And I think Tyra's striking is actually pretty solid as well. I mean, it's definitely underdeveloped, but his fundamentals, I think the guy has solid offense. I'm seeing some good speed and technique behind his strikes. I haven't really seen him really put it together and show a good overall striking performance, but I think the guy has really good basics and has potential to grow in the striking. So I think this is going to be another win for Tyra here. I'm confused as to whether it's going to be a sub or a decision. I do think the sub at 350, like Ozzy was saying, probably has some value because he's going to be on the back, and I could see Vergara getting rear naked choked here. Also, Vergara got like instantly taken down and rear naked choked. It was in 2018. It was 4 years ago, but Devin Miller fight, he gets literally taken down and instantly gives up his back and instantly gets rear naked choked in less than a minute there. So I think that there is potential that he could just get steamrolled in the grappling here from Tyra. So next fight is the women's strawweight division. Sam Hughes taking on Pierre Rodriguez. The line for this one, Pierre at minus 157, Hughes plus 137. So I think that the Hughes is the side here. Pierre's last fight was against Hansen. Going into that fight, there were a lot of questions about her defensive grappling, and there wasn't much tape to back it up. There was a few little clips of her getting taken down and her standing up, but she did prove that her defensive grappling is not bad in that fight. She did get taken down once or twice. She was able to stand up. She was able to stuff a lot of shots in the second and third round. So I think that her defensive grappling isn't god awful. But I think that Hansen is not that strong of a wrestler. I think that Sam Hughes might be a better wrestler and just a better overall fighter than Kay Hansen. So you're getting a better price on Sam Hughes than you got on Kay Hansen. And I think the market is kind of overreacting to Piera defeating Hansen. and I think that Hughes might actually be a tougher grappling test than Hansen was. And Hughes looked like a menace in her last fight. Destroyed Elise Reed, and eventually finished her. I think in the third round there. So I think Hughes' potential to get takedowns and get on top here is pretty high. And on the feet, I don't even think it's going to be a complete wash for Piera. So I like Sam Hughes as a dog here. I see it as more of a 50-50 type of fight.
Yeah, so I like Pierre in her fight against Kay Hansen, but I forget who was the favorite. It was like a pick 'em line, I guess. But I think this is an interesting fight. I think these girls are kind of evenly matched overall. Obviously Sam Hughes or has overperformed a bit, or she just like a spunky, you know, tough girl that doesn't go away that easily. Piera, I don't really think her striking is all that accurate. She may have a little bit of power for the division, but it's not very accurate. I don't think the shot selection is very well thought out overall. So I just think this is a fight that probably goes into third round. If you give it, you probably give Sam um, a bit more equity in the third round than you would the first two, but the first two or could be kind of coin flips as well, depending on how the fight does play out. And I do think Sam Hughes will have the conditioning advantage. And I just see this fight probably going to the decision. So you could get Sam Hughes at over 2 to 1 or over two plus 200 by decision. I think that's a good side to be on. Just because she's gonna be in Pierre's face, she's probably gonna be grinding on her. I could see some clinching, going on in this fight. Sam Hughes probably Pierre probably doesn't have the tools to keep her on the outside all that much. So yeah, I would probably side with Sam Hughes. I think this line will probably continue to come in, but it's come in quite a bit. So it was like plus 160 not that long ago. So 137. I think there's gonna be some people that do side with Piera, but gonna be a pass fight for me. But I would definitely side with the underdog if I were to bet it. Maybe I'll do a little small bet on the by decision.
That's going to take us to the next fight, featherweight division. Joe Anderson Brito taking on Lucas Alexander. Brito's the big favorite here, minus 375. Alexander plus 300. Short notice fight for Alexander, making his UFC debut. Did you tape Alexander at all, Ozzy?
I don't know too much about Alexander. I have trained with someone who used to train at that fusion gym. And he just told me that that Alexander is solid. He didn't tell me, it wasn't a glowing review overall. He was just like, oh, I'm really happy for him, this or that, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like this is the kind of fight where Brito, he's just more well rounded, has some power in his hands. And if you look at some of his regional tape, which I've watched a bit of his fights, he is able to grapple and grind people out as well. Like his cardio, has looked bad, some would say, but or look bad against but Bill's a cardio machine. And Lucas coming in on short notice, I don't think maybe preparing as much with the grappling. I think he's only like a purple belt, but I think the wrestling and just the overall physicality of Brito should be able to carry him to a win here, and so I think he should have a good round one, be sharp here, but there is probably a little bit of volatility in a fight like this. But I'm not really, I did take a peek at Lucas, but I wasn't really blown away. I don't think this is a guy that is really like a great prospect that's going to be picking up wins in the UFC. So I would definitely pick Brito to win for sure.
Yeah, not a whole lot of thoughts on this fight from me. I mean, I watched, one or two of Alexander's fights, and I just didn't think that he brought anything to the table that would really give Brito some trouble. But Brito is not proven enough of a guy to be trusted at this big juice price. So it's no doubt about it, dog or pass. Wouldn't even put Brito in a parlay. I think, he's just not proven enough to make this fight look easy. But he probably is going to have a striking and grappling advantage here. The only way I could see the fight, an angle to bet the fight is maybe the over 1.5. Maybe Alexander is tough enough to make it over.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
Brito does like typically grapple. I think his plan A is typically to grapple, and he's kind of a little lay and prayish on top. He doesn't really, look to pass or advance constantly. So I think that he could get some takedowns and kill some clock here. And my philosophy on the over 1.5 short notices. It let me down with that Shaney's guy last event. Youssef
Oh,
absolutely destroyed that guy. But generally these short notice guys do go over 1.5.
it's fucked
Were you
up
gonna
they
say
didn't give
something?
my boy Yusuf that 50K bonus for that shit. That they I guess whatever. But yeah, I mean that over 1.5 at plus money, that's pretty good. I like that. Yeah, I think I'll play that when it's available on more books.
Yeah. That's going to take us next fight, the highly anticipated matchup in the middleweight division, Nick Maximov versus Jacob Malkoun. The line for this one is Maximov minus 130, Malkoun plus 110. So the amount of two-way action coming in on this fight is astonishing. I mean, it's been bouncing back and forth for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I'm hearing some people I know are on Maximov. Not really seeing many people endorsing Malkoun, but steady action is coming in on Malkoun. So bettors out there, bigger bettors are betting Malkoun. I'm not really familiar with who they are, but I'm kind of, respecting the market a little bit on this one. I don't really have a strong opinion on the fight. I think that, Malkoun is the better striker of the two. I think he probably has a little more ways to win in terms of I could see him winning the striking or winning the grappling potentially. Maximov seems, much more likely to only have one path to win via grappling. I think Maximov is the better jiu-jitsu grappler of the two. Who's the better wrestler? That's a very valid question. I would probably lean Malkoun, honestly, though. I mean, both these guys, they get single legs. They're kind of cross sniffers. They lay and pray. Neither guy is really exciting. This fight seems super likely to hit the decision, and it's probably going to be a 29-28, maybe even a split decision for either guy. Um, and then my actual analysis on the fight for the Malkoun and Allen fight is that fight, all 3 rounds were almost the same, where Malkoun took Allen down early in the round, was on top for 2 or 3 minutes, but eventually Allen was able to find a way to reverse and get on top in the last minute or 2 minutes of all 3 of those rounds, and that kind of stole him the scorecards in that one. Somehow the judges thought that Allen won that one. But I could see a similar thing happening here where Malkoun hits takedowns, Maximov is on bottom, but Maximov is able to finally use his jiu-jitsu to work his way up, maybe reverse, hit a sweep of some sort, and then the last half of the round might be Maximov's getting on top. So I just think this is going to be a back and forth grappling fight, and I think being super confident on either guy is a little foolish here. I think maybe a unit and a half on either guy fine, but going bigger than that, I think is very volatile. So I sadly think that Maximov will get his hand raised, but I prefer if Malkoun pulled off the upset.
Yeah, it seems to me like this is the fight that has the most kind of like two-way opinions or like two-way action overall. Obviously like you mentioned, we know some people that got like 20K plus on fucking Maximov. There's no way I would ever do that. But I mean looking at the fight, I mean I feel like some reason people feel way more confident in Maximov's grappling game than I think they should be because like the guys that he's fought, like none of them really counter grapple or try to grapple him. And I actually think that this is the kind of guy who he can get taken down. Like he's not the guy that like he doesn't mind if okay, you're taking me down, all right, this is like a means to an end for me where, now I can try to, counter grapple you or whatever it is. So although that could go well for some people, sometimes that could go poorly, especially in like a, a 5 minute round or, maybe even like, let's say they fight for like 2 minutes, right, on the feet. And, it's only like a 3 minute round. So like the margins start becoming thin because like the guy's not really throwing that many strikes when he is on top. Malkoun, even though he kind of like looked like he finished that fight against Allen not well, I think his cardio is not bad. And then if they are kind of like in the clinch and striking, uh, the L I think to Allen that came about because he wasn't striking enough, I think is actually going to be good for him because he's going to know that all right, like this is a guy like this guy's way less dangerous than Brendan Allen. Let me start firing off more strikes, whether it be when he's holding on to me, right? Like Puna, Puna wasn't, like decided to like just hold some positions or like try to counter grapple where maybe like Malkoun will be able to get to certain positions where maybe he is able to like just, be active with little strikes. And I don't know. Like this is the thing. Like I feel like these guys can negate each other with control and some, Malkoun being, being more likely now maybe to strike. Obviously, this is all like inferences. Like I'm not sure of anything here. I'm not betting it. I was considering Maximov, especially when it started going down, but fuck that. Like he just looks a little empty in the head. Like the eyes look a little empty to me, and he just looks a little awkward. He just wants to grapple, and I feel like Malkoun with the jab and some of the stuff that he's shown, I think could play a role in this fight. And I don't think his bottom, like he's gonna accept the bottom positions, like a guy like Brundage did. So I'm gonna side with Malkoun for a pick.
And how is this guy a fucking Nick Diaz fighter? Like this guy's a complete crotch sniffer. Really, how is he training with the Diaz brothers with this fighting style? I mean,
Just I
uh,
don't know, he's just not confident with the hand, but you could just see, like, even the punches he throws at Petrovsky, like, they don't hit, and he's kinda like, "Oh, man, I'm, like, in space," like, "Oh, no," like, I'm vulnerable, so it's
man,
not
Petrosky
yeah,
fucking owned this guy, man.
for
Choked him out instantly.
sure.
East Coast Jiu Jitsu. Next fight, it will probably be a sad one in the bantamweight division. Rafael Assuncao taking on Victor Henry. Henry, huge favorite, minus 400. Assuncao plus 300. How old is Assuncao? He's got to be 40 by now, right? I mean, yeah, he's 40-year-old bantamweight. Never a good recipe. Any thoughts here, Ozzy?
Victor Henry's my boy. I loved him in the fight against Barcelos as a great value play. Plus 800, I think he was at like for, by decision, which is crazy. It's an interesting fight to me in the terms of like, all right, the guy's like minus 400 now. I guess it's Sunsao, just because I think a Sunsao like he doesn't really look to press the action, all that much, and he's always kind of been like the counter guy. Like, you hit him with a punch, and he's like 1-2, and then like a leg kick or something like that, where he kind of looks to he sits and waits for stuff like that. The only side I'm really looking at here is kind of like the over potentially, although I definitely admit and am very aware that um a Sunsao is not going to be able to take the kind of punishment that Barcelos did. But I think that this fight, there's more potential for it to be on take place on the ground, at least somewhat, than that Barcelos fight. Just because I think like Henry's like a competent grappler. I think it's not far fetched to say that he'll go for a takedown himself. And then a Sunsao himself, like I think he could probably take down Henry as well. So I think potentially these guys can mix it up a little bit with the grappling. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards potentially the over here. But Assunção did get put out clean by Ricky Simone, and Henry's got great cardio and is a volume machine from that last fight. But I'll lean towards the over. And that's about it as a pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the only way to play the fight. I don't see many other angles here. Um, yeah, I mean, I just think a Sun's House is just way, way over the hill, man. And getting hit and knocked out by Simone like that, not a good look. But Simone probably does hit harder than Henry. Henry is like a volume type of striker. He doesn't really sit down on his punches too much. So it seems like a matter of Henry decision or knockout here. I guess I'll lean with decision. Obviously, knockout has potential to look easier if a Sunsao is just completely shot. Henry could make the knockout look easy, but like you were saying, I think some clinching, some grappling could be involved here, killing some clock and possibly seeing this over. But no real thorough analysis for me on
Yeah,
that one.
and Henry has never been finished as well, so I kinda don't give Assunção that much equity there, and Assunção's always been a decision guy, so, I mean, little bit of juice on that goes the distance, I don't think is that bad. See.
And that's going to take us to the main card in the bantamweight division. We have Mana Martinez taking on Brandon Davis. Mana is the favorite here, minus 150. Davis plus 130 on the comeback. And yeah, I think this line is about right. Maybe even a little short. I think Mana should probably be maybe a little bit of a bigger favorite. Davis. first of all, he had some major knee injuries, right? Apparently, he got ACL surgery, 7, 8 months ago. And, you do a little Instagram cap, and which I'm a big fan of. He did post pictures of him like wearing a knee brace, like just a few weeks ago, 6, 8 weeks ago. He's still wearing a knee brace. So, possibly some issues after the surgery still there. And, he looked, completely old and slow in that fight versus Dana. I mean, just pulling his head away from punches in like a tall man's defense kind of way, and just getting absolutely nuked with punches there. Got knocked out in 2 minutes, and, just, I mean, I bet him in that fight, pathetic bet, honestly, 'cause I'm going back and, like, his contender or his, regional fights, between his stints in the UFC, I mean, he is fighting complete bums, and he's not even, like, looking impressive while doing so. So, I mean, I think Davis is probably, over the hill. He's only 32, but, I mean, the guy has been fighting for a while, never was really a good fighter, and, I just think he's probably kind of phoning it in at this point. Mana is not a really good either. This guy, just rewatching his fights, whatever he's doing with his hands, I don't understand what he's doing. It's kind of like a Ricky Tercios thing where he's like just like making these weird hand gestures when he's fighting. I don't know what he's doing, but it's not real fighting. But the guy does have some okay boxing, okay striking. Some he does have some wins that in retrospect look all right. Obviously, Guido Canetti, he lost round one there and was able to come back and win the second two rounds. Knocked out Jose Johnson, knocked out Ricky Tercios, which are okay wins. Um, and even the Hani Lawrence fight, got dropped in the first 2 rounds of that fight and still came back to Hani in round 3. So I think Mana is, he's somewhat resilient. He can lose a round and come back, and I think he has more potential to maybe struggle and battle through that adversity. While Davis, I think if he faces any adversity, he might just, pack it up and get finished. While I think Mana has more ability to actually deal with some adversity and come out on top here. So I think money line wise, it's honestly favorite or pass. And I think this fight should honestly end inside the distance, man. I think that, both of these guys, the way they match up, I just think they're gonna collide. Both are hittable, both are kind of fragile. I just mentioned Mana got dropped 3 times by Ronnie Lawrence. Davis got dropped multiple times in Hurt versus Dana. I think, either one of these guys could finish each other. So the ITD at Pick'em price, I think is not bad.
Sketchy ass fight. I mean, this Madumana, like you said, only way he's won fights really is other than that Guido fight is by knockout. I mean, Brandon Davis. Oh, the thing is, like with the grappling, I think he could potentially work it, like and take Mana down. Mana's takedown defense hasn't looked all that great, but he does, look to get up to his feet. But yeah, I mean, I think he deserves to be the favorite just because of one that thing with the injury for Davis, how the striking defense that this guy has or lack of it. And the fact that Mana, he's coming from that southpaw stance. I don't think um. uh, Brandon Davis has fought many southpaws. He fought Giga, obviously, but he's now down at this 135 weight class, which is kind of weird to me for a guy as tall as he is. Like he should definitely be at a higher weight class, but he's just so skinny, and I don't think he's that strong. But again, you got Mana, who he looked real bad in like the weight cut against like Guido. I think like he missed weight and just a sketchy guy. Like I don't really know what he's gonna bring to the fight, but I would side with him. I would not bet on this on him on the money line. If I was to take him, I would try to, just take him, for by knockout or inside the distance, either or. Just because I think that if he wins his fight, majority like most of his equity is knocking this dude Brandon Davis out, getting the guy, short on the comeback, bad chin overall, and bad defense. So yeah, I think Mana should be able to win this fight and connect enough on Brandon Davis, but not a good fight here. Not a good. These are low level 135 ers, very low level.
Yeah, can you just reset your mic too before the next fight? Light heavyweight division next. Misha Cirkunov taking on Alonzo Menifield. Absolutely hilarious matchup here. The line for this one: Menifield minus 200, Cirkunov plus 170. This line has barely moved a single cent. I mean, yeah, this price has been the exact same since October 2nd on Bet Online. So this fight, nobody's betting it. I mean, for good reason too. It's kind of a confusing fight. Your turn to start this one off first, though. What are you thinking here?
Misha's back up at 205. The 185 stint was not good for him. He's 3 L's in a row here, so he's probably getting cut. He probably gets paid a good amount of money, so he's probably getting cut if he doesn't win this fight. But I mean, at plus 170, I can see why it's like somewhat enticing for people. Obviously he's got the grappling advantage, southpaw guy as well. So, when he does is throwing strikes and is not, batshit scared, a few good hands every now and then. But I just don't understand how you could bet on Alonzo Menifield. Like, I mean, look, I've been the biggest hater on Alonzo Menifield, and if you look at look at who he beat. He beat Fabio Charon, be fucking Ed Herman with the calf kicks. Even in that fight, it was, in my opinion, a little sketchy. And he beat that bum Askar last time. And now he's 2-1 over Misha Cirkunov, who, I mean, Misha Cirkunov, yeah, he's a choker. He, mental midget, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to cast aspersions, but maybe if the shoe fits, guys wear them. And he just, but he has all the skills and the attributes, right? He could get takedowns potentially on Alonzo, right? Alonzo loves the clinch, and Misha, a lot of his takedowns, like he does do, like judo trips and shit like that. He's probably just as strong as Alonzo. And then when he is on top, he goes for submissions. Like he looks to fit. He's like maybe a better, more advanced version of like a new generation. What's his name? The guy that Olenek. He's like a new generation Olenek on the ground, right? He's doing fucking neck cranks and little side arm triangles and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm actually considering a bet on Cirkunov here, just because Alonso, he's just not that accurate with his punches. When he loses gas, he's looking to grapple. He does that against William Knight. He did that a little bit against Ed Herman, I feel. It's a southpaw matchup, which he hasn't really fought too many of them where he's like striking, where he's using like his leg kicks and stuff like that, which he used a lot against Ed Herman. So I don't know how you just come to the point where Alonzo Menifield is minus 200 here. So I'll take Cirkunov here, maybe a little small bet inside the distance here. I think is good, or under 2 rounds. Maybe doesn't go to the third round. I think would be solid. The under here is like even money. Consider that, but I think betting Alonzo is nuts. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the under has potential to look super easy here because Cirkunov fights, he does tend to like kill or be killed, especially at 205 too. Like he went down to 185 and he made it out of the first round. But I think at 205, like 8 of his fights in a row have ended in the first round or something crazy like that. Um, I mean, I agree with your thoughts on Menifield, though. The guy's not a good fighter. He's destroyed a lot of favorable matchups in a row. But Misha is honestly not going to be an easy matchup for him because Menifield, I think, is actually most comfortable, grappling opponents. And I don't think he's going to have an easy grappling path at all here. Cirkunov, he's a skilled fighter, but I mean, this guy just can't seem to put it together in terms of his intelligence and his durability, his physicality. I mean, he has potential to be good. It's just he consistently fucks up these fights and these matchups. I mean, look at the Ryan Spann fight, for example, man. Just pathetic how quickly he got destroyed there. And Spann and Menifield do train together, so safe side you've got some experience with this Misha Cirkunov matchup. Um, Cirkunov KO at 9-1 is a little crazy, and sub at first Cirkunov is 4-1, also a good line. I mean, I just think that the value is all over Cirkunov here. He has potential to get wiped out instantly, but I think Menefield has potential to get just instantly caught in a guillotine as well, or that Peruvian necktie that Cirkunov likes to go to as well. So hopefully Cirkunov can pull off the upset here. Laying juice on Menefield is not the right move unless he's fighting a Ukrainian fraud with a fake record. So um, I think Cirkunov passed. Next fight, middleweight division, Dusko Todorovic taking on Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja in action. The line for this one, Dusko minus 205, Wright plus 175. So, I mean, Wright is kind of at the point where he's so bad that I think that there's almost no price or no matchup that I think would actually want to, inspire me to bet money on him. And Dusko is not very good either. But I think he does have the better overall skill set on the feet and on the ground here. Only thing he might not be better at Wright is, durability. I think this could be a little bit close in terms of who can touch the chin first, because both of these guys do get hurt quite often and have been knocked out a few times. So, um, yeah, I mean, I do think Dusko is going to win. I think he'll probably cover that price tag. And I don't even know, man. This is going to be a sloppy, shitty fight, though. So, not many complex thoughts there for me. What are you thinking?
Like Dusko in this fight. I mean, he got put out by Chitty, but it was at the end of the round. He was kind of like in the clinch and a little bit, maybe a little bit too comfortable. And, Chitty connected with that big elbow over the top. I think he approached that fight well, right? He used his striking to kind of get Chitty against the fence or, shoot in on that double leg. I liked how he was trying to tie up the legs and stay on top. And I just think Dusko is over like skill wise, I think he's pretty well rounded. His conditioning, I don't think is bad. I don't think his durability is bad either. He took some big shots from RoboCop in their fight. And Jordan Wright, he just like to me, the way he kind of like approaches these fights, like, yeah, it looks like he's throwing out. He tries to throw out the best strikes possible, right? He does look to, hurt his opponents. But look at his last fight, man. Like, how do you get guillotined by freaking MAB and like, you take him down and then you get finished and mount? Like, how do you let that guy sweep you over? And you saw in MAB's other fight, he's not a good grappler. And I think Dusko should have the advantage grappling. I think Dusko should have the advantage durability wise and with the conditioning and just knowing that he can go deeper into these fights and start executing a game plan. Like realistically, after Jordan Wright, is done hopping around a little bit, like what does this guy have to potentially offer you in the second round? I'll tell you what, nothing. You don't know. You don't know what he could potentially could do well. Like he does not have that many tools in the toolkit. And when he did try to go to a alternative plan with the grappling, he gets choked out by a freaking Canadian grappler that it doesn't grapple. So I don't think that like the guy I think is done here in the UFC after this. Like he's there's Beverly Hills in his name for a reason. Okay, like that's the kind of name. It's like a funny haha kind of like ironic. You know what I mean? So I think Dusko is gonna win this fight. I backed him a little bit at -190. I think -200 is okay as well, but I can understand, being, the hesitation on it. Maybe you take some Dusko and some, right round one, maybe just to cover yourself a little bit. But I think Dusko's eventually gonna get this done one way or another.
All right, that's going to move us on. Next fight, flyweight division. Askarov taking on Brandon Royval. The odds for this one, Askarov -241 and Royval +206. What are you thinking about this flyweight fight here?
I hate this fight. I hate fucking Brandon Royval. I don't really like Askar either. But I just think it's gonna be like a touch butt kind of fight. Like, yeah, does Brandon Royval, throw out tons of volume and things like that and make fights chaotic? Yeah. But Askar is a different kind of dude, bro. Like he literally the guy can't hear and he doesn't really care about how you're trying to fight him. I think like he's got one game plan is to grapple you. I think he's pretty good with just like, you know, assessing what you're trying to do to him in terms of like you're counter grappling and then countering that counter grappling. He's very comfortable there. Brandon Royval, like I said, man, he's a new age, like sketchy black belt. He's just rolling around, flipping around. He doesn't state of it many very many principles. He's just doing flips and rolls in hopes that the other guy is not savvy enough like to know what you do on the backside or okay if this guy spins this way. Like I keep an underhook on this side and I just run to the other hip. Just stuff that real grapplers know, right? Like you, Martian, right? You know everything I'm just talking about right there.
Precisely, yeah.
Exactly. So, doing stuff like that. But Askar is just so well schooled. He just so fundamentally based. You could see the fights like Pantoja and stuff like that. Like the guy, I don't think his heartbeat changes or skips a beat whenever like these interactions or these like transitions are going as opposed to a guy like Matt Schnell who's obviously freaking out when the guy's putting you in submission or all these things. So I would be surprised if Brandon Royval got this W. I'm gonna be interested in watching the fight just because I do think that I do think Askar should be able to finish Brandon Royval. Honestly, like there's a reason this submission prop is +310 and taking a little action at DraftKings. I thought that number was a little short, so I didn't really want to play it. But I think Askar has a good potential to finish his fight. Like this guy is stronger than he looks, I think Brandon Royval is gonna be surprised when he's doing all this goofy shit, when Askar actually gets a hold of him. So I'll pick Askar to win.
Did you say you would be surprised to see Royval win?
I think I said that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is I agree with what your assessment of both guys. I don't like either one. Something about both guys just put me off. I mean, Royval, janky ass striking, getting dropped by Matt Schnell and bitch ass Matt Schnell tapping out like that. How does Matt Schnell go from getting knocked down multiple times in the same round versus Sumadarji to coming back and choking him out to just instantly tapping to a guillotine with both hands left in that Royval fight? I mean, that guy is a fucking anomaly. But uh, I don't really have a lot of thoughts on this fight. I think it's dog or pass from a money line perspective. I think that Askarov is just too wimpy to be laying minus 200 or more here. I mean, the guy is a great grappler, but I think that, his striking is kind of weak. And I think that honestly, Roy Vol's just janky style and length and size is probably going to give Askarov a little trouble on the feet. And, Roy Vol is scrambly. He's hard to hold down. I mean, Tim Elliott gassed out badly trying to grapple him and hold him down. And Askarov's gas tank is kind of questionable as well. I mean, this guy, when he's in a competitive back and forth fight, I don't think he can keep that high of a pace. He's not really that good of an athlete. So I have some questions about Askarov. I also don't think that I'm not seeing any improvements in Askarov's game. Like since the time he's gotten to the UFC to now, has he added a lot of layers? Has he shown us anything very impressive? Added much new depth to his game? I don't think so at all. I mean, this guy's kind of stagnant in my opinion. So I think I would actually be cheering for the dog to pull off the upset just to kind of shake things up here. But I think it'll eventually be an Askarov, probably decision, winning 2 out of 3 rounds via out grappling him. But I don't know, man. No real conviction on this fight. Roy Vol knockout at 10-1. Not bad. Not bad. I think that he could possibly pull off some crazy finish. Roy Vol, ITD in general at 380, man. I don't think he's winning a decision over Askarov here. So if you're playing Royval, you might as well take that ITD as well. Um, Next fight, co-main event, bantamweight division. Jonathan Martinez taking on Cub Swanson. Martinez minus 212. Cub Swanson plus 182. Cub dropping down to 135 here. Kind of a questionable decision. I mean, pretty much everyone I know is talking about how it doesn't really make sense. Like it's not like he was struggling like that badly at 145 when he was fighting the top fighters in the division. Sure, he was struggling, but Darren Elkins is still a son of a bitch to deal. I mean, the guy is a ferocious grappler. He's not easy to put out of there. He's not an easy matchup for a lot of guys. But Cub Swanson made that shit look easy. I mean, he absolutely butchered and finished at Darren Elkins and made it look easy. Kind of, the Daniel Pineda fight. He maybe had a few sketchy moments there, but still was able to knock him out there. I mean, the Crone Gracie fight, good performance. It's only really when he's fighting like top 10, top 15 fighters is he losing. So I think that he should have stuck around at 145 and racked up a few wins outside of the top 15. Dropping down to 135 throws a lot of variables in there. But, career wise, Cub Swanson is a tremendous fighter and he's, the much better overall career fighter than Jonathan Martinez is. It's just a matter of is he old enough and is this weight cut a concern enough that he going to lose the fight because of those two factors? And it's very possible that those two factors do lose him the fight, but I think the price, what we're looking at of Martinez at damn near 70% here is disrespectful and off, quite frankly, for Cub Swanson. I think the market might be overrating Cub's age and this weight cut a bit too much. They're also I think factoring in the leg kicks here because Swanson struggled with the leg kicks against Pineda. Martinez throws a lot of leg kicks and consistently leg kicks a lot of his opponents. So I think people are thinking, oh, the leg kicks are going to make this easy for Martinez, and it has potential to do so, but I think it's kind of foolish to solely rely on a leg kick as being like a 2-to-1 favorite because the boxing, the grappling, I think is going to be real close between these guys. And I think Cub Swanson still has a little bit left in the tank, and he's doing his camp with TJ right for this camp. TJ training for the belt, and hopefully he's maybe getting a little bit of those TJ supplements that TJ has access to. And I really hope Cub pulls this off. Cub is a fucking really cool fighter, cool guy. seeing him win that fight with Elkins, and he brings his family, like 3 or 4 daughters, that was a very, very wholesome moment. So I'm definitely cheering for Cub Swanson to pull off the victory. And I don't know if I'll actually bet him, but I hope he pulls off the victory.
Yeah, I don't think Cub Swансon's gonna win this fight. Like, I mean, like you said, I don't understand the weight cut. Why he's going down. Like a perfect fight would have been Cub Swanson versus Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres. Why didn't they do that? That'd be a perfect fight. Two older guys, similar spot in the rankings, been a perfect fight. No, not too athletic of a guy. Like, why wouldn't Cub take that fight? Don't know. But if I were to bet on Cub, I think he needs to get off to a fast start. Like you said, those leg kicks are a real factor. If you ever look at, Cub's lower body, it's not impressive. This guy's got some skinny ass legs. He never really dealt with too many leg kickers either. He's been fortunate. Like he never fought like Edson Barboza, I don't think, or anyone like that. So I think, yeah, he's been fortunate with that. I think he might look to grapple a little bit here at some point, but the thing is, with that weight cut, like I don't know, like there's no way he's gonna be able to keep up that a good grappling pace, in my opinion, on a guy like Jonathan Martinez, who himself has had a bad or has had an issue with cutting weight. So you never know, you don't know who's gonna not make weight or not make weight, or like I mean, happened last week or 2 weeks ago. They're like, yo, 140 catch weight. So it could happen here, so don't, be overextending on Martinez because or I don't know. Just don't I wouldn't bet this fight too early. I would wait to see them on the scale. I think that, Southpaw here Martinez, is gonna be in line for Cubs, best weapon, which is kind of him throwing those overhand rights, those quick darting in right hands. But his biggest advantage I felt at 145 was his speed and quickness and being able to get off on these shots like he did against, Darren Elkins. That was a good matchup for him because the guy's, very slow. Whereas Martinez, he's kind of, very open to, you're looking to load up on a strike or whatever. He'll just like step out of range and be like, oh, that's not gonna hit me, or moving away and stuff. So, I think maybe like Hub, maybe first round, at maybe like 10-1. He's been a fast starter in his career a few times. I think that maybe could be a good look. But I think Martinez here is gonna get the kicks going, gonna be able to get the counters on Cub going as well. And just be able to outstrike him a little bit here. I don't really have a lean too much on if it's gonna go the distance or if Cub's gonna be able to withstand and take, a lot of these shots. But Martinez has a lot of like kind of like later finishes or, hurting people later in fights. And I think that does coincide with the, Cub maybe being a little depleted or maybe blowing his wad a bit early in the fight. So I think that, Martinez maybe around 3 could be a okay look, but I think he's gonna win this fight for sure. So I definitely pick him, and I wouldn't bet him at 2-1, but I think maybe I take a stab at one of those late props.
I don't know. Martinez doesn't really go for the kill. Like like I recall Vince Morales' leg looking completely fucked like 2 or 3 minutes into that fight, and Martinez never really poured it on him and like looked for that finish. So I could see this one actually stretching to make it to a decision as well. Because if Swanson's leg starts hurting, I think he's gonna let off the pressure, and it could become a bit of a cruising decision for Martinez there. So Martinez decision, I think it's like plus 155 plus is not bad. I think if that's not a bad way to play him.
That's fair, sure.
Um, Women's main event time. I said it earlier in the podcast, but for women's main events, this is actually a pretty fun fight. Both women I think are on the entertaining side of things. They both typically like to strike, and they're exciting to watch. So I'm a little excited for this fight. Alexa Grasso minus 227 favorite. Viviana Araujo plus 192. Your turn to start this off. What do you think? In Mexico versus Brazil here, that's usually a good recipe for a
I
fight.
love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I like this fight. I mean, a lot of the other, fights here I could definitely do without, but I like this fight. I like both girls. Viviani definitely made both of us pay when she beat Andrea Lee in her last fight. That was a good performance by her. She slowed down a little bit, but she was aggressive. She was a rabid dog in that fight. And I think she's gonna get off to a good start here as well, just because she's physically very strong. She's quick. She's got great attributes. She actually has good, good hands as well. The only question, some people have is her conditioning or her cardio, maybe later on in the fights. But I think here, maybe she's gonna be able to play that down a little bit. because I think both girls will be maybe a little tentative early, but I think that even with that, Vivi will probably, maybe look to get ahead, but I think it's not gonna be as chaotic and frantic as the Andrea Lee fight, just because I think both girls know that they need to go 5 rounds, more than likely. It's gonna be hard to finish either of them. Vivi, I mean, Vivi looks like she's extremely durable. Overall, like I haven't really seen her stunned or hurt all that much. But she does, like I said, has had those cardio issues, losing third rounds on multiple occasions. Um, and Alexa Grasso, she lost the first round to, I think it was it Kim who she fought.
Yeah, Jiyoung
Yeah,
Kim.
she lost the first round to Kim. Sometimes she just starts off slow. You can see in her later fight or her later rounds, like against Macy Barber or other girls, where in those second or third rounds she has more zip and she has a lot more pop on the shots, or she just throws them with looking to hurt the other girl, more than she does in that first round because she's looking for that find that range, look to use that jab. She's got a great jab, follows it up with a good right hand after it. But she doesn't have like a crazy repertoire on the feet. Like I haven't really. She kicks a little bit, but she doesn't really uncork, crazy, big combination. She doesn't really go to the body all that much. But she has been improving the ground game. She said she's been intentional and kind of mentioning that. But I know Vivi has a pretty good ground game as well. She be doing this lucha libre stuff where they do like these alternative, like different kind of submissions. This is weird. If you ever roll with a lucha libre person, they're kind of strange. They'll like grab your foot, just pull that shit in the wrong direction. They're weird people. And Vivi comes, she's like a black belt. I'm telling you, Vivi's got a black belt and that stuff. So I think it's gonna be a competitive fight. I think that Vivi does probably shoot a takedown at some point, gets Alexa on her back, and I'm interested to see Alexa's counter grappling because the lucha libre people, they're weird, but with that, but they also sometimes be messing up. They go for dumb stuff and they get put on their back. It's bad. Sometimes they do bad stuff. But I think it's gonna be a competitive fight. I think Vivi is a good value bet though here. Maybe you'll be able to buy out of it at some point. But you know what I actually like? Vivi no scorecards, maybe. It's plus 180 on Bet Online right now. I think that's not the worst look, even though you may think that Alexa could turn up the volume on her in a later point. But I don't think I'll bet that either. I think the only bet for me would probably be trying to get a small wager on Vivi early. Maybe get to that 2 to 1 plus 200 number, and then potentially look to trade out at some point later in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that assessment. Pretty much completely. Money line side, it's definitely Vivi right now before the fight. I just highly doubt Alexa is going to come out covering minus 200 from the jump. I think the fight being 5 rounds does probably play to her advantage. She might be training at elevation still in Mexico too, which is probably good for her cardio. And she's just historically been a much better fighter in the later rounds. Um, but Araujo's cardio is kind of inconsistent, man. It's like, everyone kind of expected Lee to be fresher in that fight, and then Araujo was the one who's actually fresher. Um, but I think this is just going to be a competitive, close matchup. Obviously, we saw it with Dern being way overvalued in her fight last week. Was got steamed to almost 3 to 1 there at close, and I just think that sometimes the popular, prettier girl sometimes can get more action, and market gets a little fooled on some of these fights. So I mean, I definitely think Grasso at
Are
over
you
two to
calling?
one
Are you
is a
calling
bad play.
Vivi? Are you calling Vivi not pretty?
No, but Grasso is prettier. Vivi, yeah, Vivi's a pretty woman too, but Grasso is just cuter. She's the her little English, her little broken English is
That
cute.
shit's hot,
Whatever,
right?
whatever.
That shit's hot, right? Yeah.
um anyway, I think it'll probably be like a 48, 47, 49, 46 decision for Grasso. Vivi will probably win one of the first few rounds, but um I'm hoping the fight is entertaining. I'm hoping maybe Vivi can pull off the upset. And then like Ozzy was saying, maybe look to get in on a Grasso live bet here. She does kind of figure things out as the fight goes on and work into the fight pretty well. She's a pretty intelligent fighter. So I think the later fight will probably favor her, and it'll probably be, like I said, 48-47 decision for Grasso here. Vivi KO at 16 to 1, a little crazy. Um, but not much interest in that fight. A lot of these fights, man, I just have very little interest. Not really too in depth reads this week. We're saving all that hard hitting analysis for next week, which is, like I said earlier, one of the best UFC cards ever. So, what is what? Sorry, I cut off for a second. What is going to be your best bet of the week here, Ozzy?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take a money line side. I was looking at some of these props, and it was gonna be like one of these overs, but I didn't even really like that intent on them. And the two money lines I mentioned, I had Tyra and Dusko. Some of them moved a little bit. So other play that I like is Misha Cirkunov. Right now, some places you get him plus 180, got plus 175 on DraftKings, and I just think on a side like that, the line's so available like that. I think that would be the best bet value wise. If not, you could go with Dusko, but I'll go with Misha at plus 175.
All right, and I'm going to do the inside the distance in a Mana Martinez Brandon Davis fight. I was debating between this and Sam Hughes. I think I'll bet Sam Hughes straight up still as well. I just feel that this Mana ITD fight, it could just look super easy. It could just end instantly in round one if Davis is totally shot. And I think that this one has just potential to win pretty sweat free. So if you combine them on DraftKings right now, Misha plus 175 with ITD in the Mana fight at minus 120, you get plus 404 on that parlay. And that'll be my elbow bets best bet of the week as well on this
Whoa,
Martinez
whoa, whoa,
Davis.
whoa! You're not supposed to give that shit out. What are you doing?
No, you are. You are. You're allowed to. You're
Oh
allowed to.
my
That's how it
god!
works.
Wow. All right, I'm not
No, you're
understanding. I need a
yeah,
FAQ on
yeah.
that. I need a. They need.
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you some in-depth details.
Yeah, I think you need to put out a FAQ on that, bro. All right, but
Yeah, it's a complex system. I understand your confusion. Yeah, that's gonna do it for this week. Not the probably not the greatest podcast this week, but thank you all for tuning in. These fights just aren't that great this week. But like I
Martian,
said, next week, like,
will you commit for for your loyal listeners on a earlier release for next week?
um, probably it'll probably be like Wednesday at the very latest. But yeah, we could try to get it done Tuesday or something like that.
All right, sounds
The
good.
thing is, though, we need adequate time to prepare and analyze
I've been
these fights and tape
preparing,
them.
bro. You
That's
think
true.
I've been preparing, bro. I
We've
got
been in the lab. We've been in the lab with this shit.
I know who I like and I like who I know.
This week's gonna come in an hour 5 minutes. Next week we're going an hour and a half for sure. So be ready for that. Strap in. We will see you all next week. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoy the fights this weekend and win some bets. We'll see you before UFC 280 next week. Peace out, everyone.